It was August 20th, 1966. A young man was walking along the hills of Vintém, just outside Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The sky was gray, heavy with the promise of rain, and the air felt strangely still. He climbed higher up the slope, pushing through tall grass, when he saw something. Two figures lying side by side, perfectly still. At first, he thought they were sleeping, but as he stepped closer, his heart froze. The two men were dead. Their bodies were resting peacefully on the hillside, as if they'd simply fallen asleep and never woken up. Each wore a suit and strange metallic masks. Smooth, shiny, covering only their eyes. No weapon, no wounds, no struggle.
Beside them lay a small notebook. Inside, a few cryptic lines. Translated, it read, "Be at the determined place. Take capsules after the effect. Protect metals. Wait for mask signal." Police were baffled. Who were these men? What did mask signal mean? And what were they protecting? This is the lead masks case, one of Brazil's most haunting and unexplained mysteries. A story that has puzzled investigators, scientists, and believers for nearly 60 years. Because the deeper you look into it, the stranger it gets.
When investigators arrived at the scene, they immediately knew something was off. The hillside showed no signs of a fight, no footprints leading away. Just two men, neatly dressed, their lead masks catching the last rays of the setting sun. Their names were Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana, two electronics technicians from a nearby city called Campos dos Goitacazes. Both were in their 30s, both well-respected, and both known for their fascination with spiritualism and the unknown. Inside the men's pockets, police found a receipt for 2 waterproof raincoats, an empty bottle of water, and a note mentioning the exact time and date they were to return home. But nothing else. No drugs, no signs of robbery.
The autopsy offered no clear answers. Their organs were normal. There was no poison in their blood. No trauma, no burns, just nothing. The only strange clue was the lead masks themselves, handmade, roughly cut from thin metal sheets. Experts said they were not for protection from radiation, nor for welding. They were simply masks, masks that served no known purpose. Witnesses soon came forward. A waitress remembered the men stopping by her bar the evening before they died. They looked anxious, she said, as if they were waiting for something. They bought water, then hurried out, saying they were headed to the hills to perform an experiment.
An experiment? Involving what? Electricity? The supernatural? Or something from the sky? That question became the obsession of local investigators, because rumors soon began to spread that the men were trying to contact beings from another world. And as more evidence surfaced, the line between science and mysticism began to blur completely. In the days after the discovery, newspapers across Brazil exploded with headlines. 2 technicians dead on a hill. Lead masks. A strange note. And no clear cause of death. To some, it sounded like the work of a secret experiment gone wrong. To others, a ritual. And for a growing number of people, it was proof of contact with something not of this earth.
Police searched the men's homes. What they found raised even more questions. A stack of scientific books on radiation and energy, and notes describing spiritual tests, ones meant to connect the soul to higher frequencies.
They even found drawings of flying discs and calculations that looked like signal coordinates. Friends told investigators that the men often attended meetings with other technicians who studied psychic phenomena. They believed that with enough mental focus, they could communicate with extraterrestrial beings, but only if their eyes were shielded from harmful radiation. Hence, the lead masks. Not protection from the outside world, but preparation for what they thought they might see. Some claimed they had done this kind of experiment before, using homemade electronics to send signals into the sky. They called it spiritual science. But this time, something went differently, and fatally so.
Another rumor suggested they had been part of a black market science group, testing radioactive materials, but no radiation was ever found. Then came the most chilling theory of all, that on that night, the men weren't alone, that someone or something had met them there, and whatever they saw was the last thing their eyes ever witnessed. No proof, no witnesses, just two lifeless bodies and a notebook that reads like a final ritual. Days turned into weeks, and still no cause of death was confirmed. Toxicology tests were inconclusive. No poison, no trauma, just two healthy men who somehow stopped living. Investigators interviewed everyone who knew them. One witness claimed to have seen a bright orange light hovering over the hill that same evening. Others dismissed it as a hallucination or lightning. But that single report kept the UFO theory alive for decades. Years later, journalists and paranormal researchers reopened the case. They found that the men had purchased the lead masks from a local workshop, custom made. Their families said they'd spoken excitedly about an important mission they couldn't discuss. To this day, the official record still lists their deaths as undetermined. No evidence of foul play, no radiation, no drugs, nothing, except the masks. Some believe they were victims of their own experiment, an attempt to contact higher beings gone tragically wrong. Others think they may have been tricked into consuming a fatal substance during a secret test. But the truth, whatever it is, was buried with them on that hill in Niterói. Half a century later, the story of the lead masks case remains one of Brazil's most haunting unsolved mysteries. It's whispered in UFO circles, studied by criminologists, and even referenced in modern sci-fi shows. But beyond the theories and conspiracies, there's something deeply human about it. Two men, driven by belief, by curiosity, and by a hunger to touch something beyond what science could explain. They sought the stars and lost themselves on the way. And maybe that's the real message of the lead masks case, that our search for truth can take us to beautiful and dangerous places, because some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only remembered.